And James Comey's memos are still the topic of conversation.
They sure
President
are.
Trump was out tweeting about this yesterday, saying they are classified. Therefore, he broke the law.
There's now a criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney in Washington for his leaking and lying.
And my guess is, I don't know this for sure, but Clapper's the one who orchestrated this. He's the one who told Comey, you go and you talk to the president. You brief him on the dossier.
Kim Jong-un halting the country's missile testing ahead of his upcoming summit with President Trump.
President Trump having strong language and rhetoric in the beginning got us to this point.
The DNC suing Team Trump, the Russians, WikiLeaks, and more over election interference.
They ought to be suing themselves. They're the ones that colluded with the Russians.
Colin Kaepernick was given an award. It was in Amsterdam.
How can you stand for the national anthem of a nation that preaches and propagates freedom and justice for all? That is so unjust to so many of the people living there.
400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did, and it's embarrassing that you utilize their history.
She had a suntan line and red lipstick. I worked so hard for that first kiss, and a heart don't forget something like that.
Oh,
It's Sunday morning. We're halfway through our morning. We hope you're just starting yours and waking up with us. And as always, do not get dressed unless you're going to church, I guess.
Please do get dressed.
No! Pull the covers
Take
up.
your boxers.
Yep. And if you have it, enjoy a grilled cheese donut.
yeah, we just saw a grill out there. You're going to be blown away by this. It's like a brand new grill. It's at Home Depot, and they're making chicken out there and some ribs. Pete's already sampling.
A grilled cheese donut. That sounds
pretty
very good.
right?
Well, there's this new hot thing in the food world called a glazed donut burger. My brother's obsessed with it. So he said,
Pete
I mean,
probably created it.
that can't be bad,
You
right?
do that next weekend.
We should.
We're getting ready for
Glazed donut
spring. It's
burger.
almost, it's
Yeah.
basically finally spring.
So
It's
close. You went to a
finally
baseball
warming
game
up. I went to
yesterday.
a
And you had no
baseball
boy.
game.
Like it?
I lost my vocal cords because Aaron Judge hit a moonshot home run for the Yankees.
You
and I
lost
got
your
a little
vocal
excited.
cords trash talking is what happened.
Yeah, because there was a Blue Jay
Hope
fan
someone-
who annoyed me.
Someone had a camera phone video of Ed Henry yelling at a Blue Jays fan.
We should take advantage of it,
It
though,
might be out
JP,
there.
What?
of him not having a voice today.
We should. We'll
Pete
talk
wants
more.
to talk more.
The journalist will talk
What would be
less.
new about that?
Probably nothing.
Exactly. Well, Pete is back with us this morning, and we are thrilled about that.
Thank
Good to
you.
have you back. And there's, of course, always some news to get to on a Sunday morning. And there is an all-out war between James Comey and President Trump. He made that very clear, tweeting out yesterday his thoughts about the most recent news with James Comey. He says, James Comey's memos are classified. I did not declassify them. They belong to our government. Therefore, he broke the law. Additionally, he totally made up many of the things he said that I said. And he is already a proven liar and leaker. Where are memos on Clinton, Lynch, and others?
That's right. I mean, a lot of legitimate questions being raised as James Comey goes on his book tour. A lot of glowing media coverage, as we predicted would be the case. But when you actually look at the facts, I mean, James Comey was a leaker. We know that. We know that the memos were literally FBI material. He knew they were classified. He didn't have to leak them. And ultimately, he knew that one, he wrote secret on one. He redacted some of the others. We got the chance to see them this week. And now, as the Inspector General refers Andy McCabe for criminal investigation or criminal indictment, referral, the same could happen to James Comey. We don't know that for sure, but Ed, as you have pointed out, the president's saying, where could it go from here? And others saying, where could it go?
And there's more to come, Ed, from what
President,
they're
I'm hearing the president's telling people in private that there's a whole lot more coming on Comey, more allegations of leaking, and that it's not just going to be tweets flying around. There's an actual investigation at the Justice Department, and that this could, I underscore, lead to a criminal referral as well. Hogan Gidley at the White House was on with Judge Jeanine last night, said two things that struck me. One, he said, there's more coming, just as I just noted.
Yep.
So people in the White House know this. And secondly, he said Comey's like 6'8". He's pretty tall. And it takes a lot to come up this small. I mean, that's what Gidley was saying. The book makes his own book makes him look small and petty.
Petty and potentially very bad timing. But you listen to the tweets or you read the tweets from the president, Pete, you could tell he's frustrated. He's frustrated that James Comey continues to control the narrative, wants to do it exactly his way. He did nothing wrong. He didn't leak any information. He wrote those memos. He wanted them to be public. He says one thing, then he says something different. He says he didn't lie. He says that McCabe, they were on different pages. Everyone's so confused right now with James Comey.
Well, of course, and some of the things that the Comey said the president said, of course, the president denies saying, but the president also a couple times in those memos said, please investigate it, please do that, because you'll exonerate me, please go out and do so. And Comey tries to spin it as if that's a bad thing. It's also, Jonathan Turley has also done a service by pointing out one of the, when you join the FBI, you have to sign a statement about the things you can and cannot do. Well, James Comey signed it just like every other rank and file member, and it says all information acquired by me, this is anyone who's an FBI agent, in connection with my official duties with the FBI, and all official material to which I have access remain the property of the United States of America. And, quote, I will not reveal by any means any information or material from or related to FBI files or any other information or material acquired by virtue of my official employment to any unauthorized recipient without prior FBI authorization.
But
there's about 4 ways in which Comey violated that statement.
Does it say you can put it in a book and make a lot of money off of it? No, not from government information.
But he might make money, but is it ultimately worth the cost of losing your reputation?
It's going to be
right. I mean, if you are head of the FBI, if you've worked your entire life or your entire career to get to that point, to have respect, to not be political, and this is how he's going to leave.
Well,
this is how he will be remembered.
Tying back to Comey, Jim Jordan, the Republican congressman, just on saying tomorrow, saying this first here on Fox and Friends, he's sending a letter to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions for more information about the raids of Michael Cohen's office and home, hotel room. And what I find fascinating is Comey's own book says, and we just mentioned this a few moments ago, that with Hillary Clinton and her lawyers, Comey says the FBI and Justice Department spent weeks negotiating how to get information from Clinton's lawyers because of the attorney-client privilege. Michael Cohen gets the door barged in.
At 4 a.m.
And they say, we don't care, basically, about the president's attorney and his attorney-client privilege. Here's Jim Jordan.
We're sending a letter tomorrow, actually, Mr. Zeldin, Mr. Meadows, and I, to the Attorney General. And we're going to ask him, on this raid of Michael Cohen's office and business, was the Attorney General consulted? Because it was sort of done outside of the umbrella of the special counsel.
They say, yeah.
And Rosenstein has been reported as the one who made the call to go ahead and seek the search warrant. I want to know if the Attorney General was, because if it's outside of Russia, Mr. Sessions is conceivably not recused. And we're not talking about just any attorney. We're talking about the attorney for the President of the United States.
Yeah, big questions there. It always strikes me that we would be having none of these conversations if the candidate they all preferred had just gone ahead and actually won the election, which was the overwhelming assumption that James Comey had, that Andy McCabe had, that Lisa Page had, that Peter Strzok had, that all of them had. Now it's coming out in the wash, and you've got Andy McCabe pointing at James Comey and him pointing back at the other. Hillary Clinton clearly getting preferential treatment. More to come is an understatement here.
Yeah.
Well, or you could just be the DNC and sue Russia and WikiLeaks and everybody else. So more to come on that. But there's some surprising news if you've been following the Senate race out in my home state of Utah, because Orrin Hatch is not running for re-election. Mitt Romney, of course, recently moved out there, and he announced that he is running for the Senate. So yesterday, Utah
recently remembered that he's from Utah?
Well, now he's from Utah.
Okay, good.
So there was a convention yesterday, which, as you know well, Pete and Ed, you have hundreds of delegates that I like to describe as the grassroots activists. These are people that care deeply about the issues. They care about authenticity. So Romney, who has often been described in the state of Utah as being a shoo-in, their golden boy, is really not going to be a competitive race. He not only didn't get the 60% that you need to win a convention, he lost.
Yeah, look at the numbers.
So it was 49 to 50 to State Rep Mike Kennedy. He was up against 12 candidates. But surprising news that he didn't just walk away with this thing. And people are wondering, why did that happen? If you remember back during the campaign in 2016, Mitt Romney was very vocal against then candidate Donald Trump about immigration, amongst other things.
That's putting it kindly.
Yeah.
Vocal.
People say that he actually was.
Well, you
working
remember
to
the
help Hillary
speech he gave that we all covered, where he came out and said, all you get is a hat out of it. I mean, Ed, does this surprise you at all?
No, because he has been, on the fence, to say the least, about Donald Trump. These are the grassroots people in the party who are like, why are you not supporting the president? In fact, Romney is saying he may not support him for re-election.
Yes, this is Mitt Romney to that other network that Ed mentioned on supporting Trump. He said, quote, I will make that decision down the road as a person of political experience. If I endorse someone, I'll want to know what's in it for Utah and what help would he provide for us on key priorities in Utah. I can barely finish the statement. And I think that's why a lot of people on that convention floor floor probably felt like you've got an opportunist coming back for the next chapter of his political career, won't support this president who's under siege. And so why do I want to give that guy a vote? I'm going to vote for the local state rep and hope he wins. And listen, the guy's got gobs of cash, so he'll probably win the primary because he's got 100% name ID there. But yet another example of the people standing up and saying, don't ram a candidate down our throat.
And a mood in the country right now that people want candidates that know what they stand for. They know what they're getting. They're not just running to win a race.
Oh, but the only thing I'd say, Mitt Romney is a man of principle. We should, I mean, I hear a lot of bashing of him.
It's more of the authenticity that I think people struggle with you say one thing, you do something else, and you look at throughout history and times that he's run in races. And
if you think back to 2012, he was right about Russia, and Barack Obama made fun of him about it being our biggest geopolitical foe. So he hasn't been wrong about all, everything.
No, he's not wrong about everything.
As they often do.
There's...
Well, so Mitt Romney, we will see how. I think you're right. I think he'll ultimately pull this out because there's a lot of money behind him. But in other news, someone that has not been talked about as of late is Colin Kaepernick. He is getting an award. I think he's over in.
Award.
Is he in Amsterdam?
Yes,
he's
Amnesty.
Getting one of Pete's favorite awards.
Of course, the Amnesty International Award, which I'm every year in the running for.
You didn't win.
Every year. Well, yesterday he gave a speech there in the Netherlands, and this is what Colin Kaepernick had to say about his anthem protest. Listen.
How can you stand for the national anthem of a nation that preaches and propagates freedom and justice for all, that is so unjust to so many of the people living there? How can you not be in a rage when you know that you are always at risk of death in the streets or enslavement in the prison system? How can you willingly be blind to the truth of systemic racialized injustice? My love for my people serves as the fuel that motivates me and fortifies me on my mission. It is the people's unbroken love for themselves that motivates me even when faced with dehumanizing norms of a system that can lead to the loss of one's life over simply being black.
Now, only a portion of his speech was played online. The rest we have from the written remarks. And he went on to say this in the speech as well, as if that wasn't bad enough. He said, racialized oppression and dehumanization is woven into the very fabric of our nation, the effects of which can be seen in the lawful lynching of black and brown people by the police and the mass incarceration of black and brown lives in the prison industrial complex.
So we had Frank Siller on the show, and of course, he's the founder of Tunnel to Towers Foundation and helping families that have lost loved ones, and most recently helping those cops that have lost first responders and cops.
Law enforcement.
And we asked him what's going on in this country, why we're seeing so many deaths of police officers and things like that. And he said, he actually mentioned Colin Kaepernick specifically, and he said it's talk like that causes so much hatred in this country.
And
so
allows
much
people to
division.
normalize the idea, we can just go kill a cop. It's absurd. It's outrageous.
Especially on foreign soil, feeding stereotypes about our police who serve us honorably every single day. It's terrible.
All right. Well, keep emailing us your thoughts, friends@foxnews.com. But I do want to bring you some other headlines that we are following closely. Starting on a serious note with a Fox News alert and a massive manhunt underway right now for the gunman who killed at least 4 people and hurt several others in a Waffle House shooting rampage. This is brand new video of the scene, which is just outside of Nashville. Police say the shooter arrived in a car registered to this man, 29-year-old Travis Reinking. He's being called a person of interest. The rampage started around 3:30 this morning when gunmen, they stormed the restaurant, opening fire with a rifle before being tackled by a brave customer and was taking off after that. We will keep a close eye on that story. Also, Major League pitcher Danny Farquhar remains in critical condition, suffering a brain hemorrhage moments after coming off of the mound. Dramatic video of the Chicago White Sox carrying their reliever out of the dugout after his shocking collapse on Friday night. His teammates keeping him in their prayers, hanging his jersey. You can see it there in the dugout as they continue their series against the Houston Astros. Our thoughts are with him. Also this, an emotional tribute to the life and legacy of former First Lady Barbara Bush. The woman affectionately known as America's grandma laid to rest in Houston, where loved ones remember her humor and her passion for education.
Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come.
She was our teacher and role model on how to live a life of purpose and meaning.
And there was this powerful moment as daughter Dorothy is seen consoling an emotional former President George H.W. Bush as he says goodbye to his wife of 73 years. Also in attendance, First Lady Melania Trump sitting next to the Clintons and the Obamas. A woman will be so remembered. And that day, what
Nice
what
to
a
see
powerful
somebody
day
coming
yesterday.
together.
Very much so. All right, Abby, thank you. Coming up, James Comey accused of lying to Congress about that anti-Trump dossier. So will the fired FBI director face any fallout? Sarah Carter's been following this story from the beginning, and she weighs in coming up next.
And GQ magazine sparking some outrage for calling the Bible one of the most overrated books of all time.
No.
Seriously.
Comey's book is the overrated.
What about what happened by Hillary?
Hey, lay off Hillary.
We were told by Mr. Comey when we asked in early 2017, where did this come from? And he said, I think it was started from Republicans. That, in fact, was a lie. Now he claims he didn't know the Democrats had anything to do with it.
That is House Intel Committee Chair Devin Nunes accusing James Comey of lying to Congress about that anti-Trump dossier. So what sort of fallout can he face now? Here to weigh in, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, thanks for being here. So on that issue or others, what legal issue could Comey be in at this point?
Well, Comey's in a number of legal issues. Let's just go back to his interview recently with George Stephanopoulos, the first interview he had, where he specifically asked, did you tell President Trump at any point during your first meeting with him when you briefed him on the dossier that the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for this dossier? And he was like, no, I just didn't think it was where we wanted to go. It wasn't something, do you think you should have? I don't know. Then he tells them in January, listen to all of these conflicting statements. In January, Congress asked them. He asked directly, Devin Nunes and the others, where did this dossier come from? And then he says once again, well, I think it was the Republicans. He is consistently lying about this dossier, and he's getting himself into hot water because, as we know, even with the memo leaks, and that's another thing that he's conflicting himself on, even if he tries to say, well, I didn't believe this was all classified, why not just declassify them yourself and hand them over to Congress? Why all the runaround? Why go to Daniel Richman, the professor, turn over those documents to him, 2 of which we know had contained classified information, and then have Daniel Richman leak them to the New York Times, and then come out and admit that you were the leaker because you wanted to move forward with a special counsel with the hopes that they would call a special counsel. Comey is going to have a lot to answer to, and Inspector General Michael Horowitz is sifting through tons of information, and I believe they will catch him in multiple lies.
Well, and think about the timing right now of the media, the media blitz, his book tour. He's been everywhere this past week. How much worse has he made it for himself? Because I have seen people on the other side, on Republicans and Democrats, saying that he's actually made us question him even more through his media interviews.
Oh, absolutely, Abby. Think about this. The IG didn't release the report on McCabe until Comey started his book tour. You have to ask yourself this question. Why was that? Because he's obviously watching Comey very closely. He's listening to everything Comey is saying. He's collecting that as evidence as well. This is very important because everything Comey says now is going to be either used against him or support him in whatever report Horowitz is putting together. And remember, there were many times he was under oath and many times that Congress felt that he was not being truthful to them. So this is also something that Congress is investigating, and it's the reason why Devin Nunes and others have fought so hard to get these documents. They continually have to keep forcing this threat of contempt against the DOJ and the FBI to get these documents. And out of all those millions of documents, right now I've been told, they only have over 3,000, and I've been told 47,000 of them pertain directly to the investigations that they're conducting.
Wow. Big stuff coming.
Sarah Carter, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, still coming up on the show, some of the media reporting the White House is skeptical of North Korea's nuclear freeze. Is that true? Well, we're going to ask Kellyanne Conway. She joins us. Welcome back. Well, a stunning reversal in North Korea. Kim Jong-un halting the country's missile testing and closing one of its nuclear sites ahead of its upcoming summit with President Trump.
But according to the Washington Post, quote, the Trump White House is reacting skeptically in private to North Korea's announcement of plans to freeze nuclear weapons testing, warning that dictator Kim Jong-un could be setting a trap, of course.
So what's the real story? Here to weigh in, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Good morning, Kellyanne.
Good morning.
Hey, Kellyanne.
So where are we on this? I mean, I know that in the arc of this story, the president's critics last year were charging that his rhetoric was going to bring us to a nuclear war. The opposite seems to be happening, but are you still skeptical that North Korea is going to deliver?
The president has made very clear that if the conditions are right, we're making the preparations, but also taking the proper precautions, that perhaps a deal can be made. What does that look like? Well, in very short order, you have Kim meeting with the leader of South Korea. You have him halting ballistic missile tests. And you have him more open and willing to talk about nuclear disarmament, if you will, just stopping all of this. And I would note that the previous president received a Nobel Peace Prize less than 8 months on the job, in part, if you go back and read the clips, in part for his work on nuclear disarmament. And this president is actually getting it done in swift fashion. People are reminded, when they watch what's unfolding here, they're reminded of the process that took place under President Ronald Reagan with respect to the Soviet Union. And that President Reagan always said, trust but verify. So, look, we're a long way away from any type of conclusion here. But the president, as he has been open and willing to do since he took office last year, can come to the table with people who are interested in doing things that are good for the world. Even some of the president's most virulent critics are crediting his leadership with bringing Kim to at least this table, this brink so far. It's very clear that Kim also wants to probably some economic revitalization for his country. Things are not going well there. But denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula benefits everyone, number one. And number two, it shows the success of President Trump's maximum pressure campaign on North Korea.
Yeah, well, another maximum pressure campaign the president has been engaged in is about the special counsel and about James Comey. And I ask you kind of a two-part question here. Does the president still believe that the special counsel is illegitimate? And the president has talked about jail time and these memos. Where is he currently on what kind of justice James Comey should face?
The president has answered that question extensively through his tweets. He knows that we were promised a Russian collusion with the campaign early on. That was the point of this entire exercise, and it's gone into many different twists and turns. And the president has also been fully cooperative. Even the Washington Post admitted a few weeks ago the president has been told he's not a target of this investigation. Jim Comey told the president at least 3 times privately that he was not under investigation, even then, but wasn't willing to say it publicly. Everybody should wonder why. But the president is very focused on big things, like getting Director Pompeo confirmed. You go back to the North Korean situation, and you see the president's trust in Director Pompeo by sending him over to start to talk about the preparations, the logistics, and then you see that we need the nation's top diplomat confirmed for a time such as this, when so many important things are going on around the globe. But in terms of the special counsel, I think the president this week, too, took account of who Jim Comey really is, someone who the president said hardly knows the president. They had very limited contact. Jim Comey was on the job for about 111 days. He's been off of the job for nearly a year and is somehow some expert into President Trump's thinking. And he's trying to sell books. Everybody can appreciate that. But he's also a witness in the Mueller investigation and clearly going to be a witness in the McCabe investigation. McCabe, his former number 2, had criminal charges referred this week. So they're going to be battling it out, I believe. McCabe's attorney had pretty tough words for Jim Comey earlier this week. And everybody sees through this stunt to sell books, but people should be very concerned that the FBI director even admitted in a podcast to the New York Times on Friday that he does worry about how he's politicizing the FBI, perhaps. He does know that his ego sometimes gets in his way, and that as the president referred to him, a grandstander and a showboat. And all of that is going on while a special counsel investigation and some congressional investigations are still underway.
All right, well, there are a lot of investigations going on. Someone else in the hot seat, Michael Cohen, the president's personal attorney. Your thoughts on how the president is thinking about this, because people have said if it comes to jail time, Michael Cohen is someone that will flip on the president. He will end up saying things that will get the president in trouble. The president tweeting about this the other day, saying that he's a good family man. He is not a guy who's going to flip on him. Critics will say the fact that the president is speaking publicly about this, is that showing that he is in fact concerned about him actually flipping? What are your thoughts?
The president has expressed concern that someone he likes and respects and worked with for many, many years has been subject to an FBI raid that the president himself called a disgrace and is overwrought. He believes is overwrought at the time. And he's got great compassion for a situation like that. In terms of that particular raid and what's going on in the Southern District in New York, that will have to play itself out. But the president has made very clear that everything that this was originally supposed to focus on, why the special counsel was appointed in the first place, has very little relevance to some of these chutes and ladders that have happened ever since. But the president has shown, and people who say the president's not loyal to anybody, that is just not false. And you see that in his posture towards and his words about Michael Cohen.
Does he have any concerns? I just want to mention, we had Alan Dershowitz on the couch yesterday. He said the Russia probe, he said that shouldn't necessarily be the biggest concern for President Trump. Where he could find real trouble is in this Michael Cohen investigation. Does the president have any concerns about that or where that might lead to?
I've not discussed that directly with the president that I can speak about. I will tell you that I'm his counselor, not his counsel. And so I know Mr. Dershowitz has offered advice through the TV and has met with the president very recently at the White House. So I'll leave that between him and his legal team, his official legal team, and others with whom he may be consulting.
All right, we'll leave it there. Kellyanne, always good to see you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, well, coming up, the weather is warming up, hopefully where you are. So it's time to fire up the grill. Of course, we're having a spring barbecue on the plaza.
Looks good. And Anna Koyman and her baby boy Brooks also on the plaza. She shows us how to work out with your baby. I'm nervous about this.
Wow.
I can't go up against Anna Koyman.
She's great.
So fun to have her back.
We are back with a Fox News alert. At least 48 people are dead and more than 100 are hurt in a homicide bomb attack on a voter registration center in the Afghan capital. ISIS now claiming responsibility.
And this comes as chemical weapons investigators get their first look at the chemical attack site in Syria since the April 7th attack.
Our own Mike Tobin is live in Jerusalem with the latest. Mike, good morning.
Well, good morning, Abby and Pete. And those chemical weapons inspectors, as you mentioned, have finally made it into the Syrian town of Douma more than 2 weeks since the alleged attack that prompted U.S.-led strikes in Syria. Inspectors from the Organization for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons have taken samples from that town on the outskirts of Damascus. There have been many delays, including reports of gunfire directed at the security team advancing the inspectors. Accusations have been made that in these long delays, Syria and Russia have had time to cover up evidence of a chemical attack. The OPCW only said, however, that inspectors were able to collect samples from one of the sites. Now, the attack on April 7th is said to have killed more than 40 people in the town of Douma. Witnesses said they died with foam pouring from their mouths and noses. The World Health Organization says more than 500 were treated with symptoms consistent with exposure to toxic chemicals. Syria and Russia have claimed that the chemical attack was a hoax. Now, shortly after the attack, the rebels that were vexing Syria in Douma and the eastern Ghouta region surrendered and left the town. But the Assad regime is not backing off. Warplanes, helicopters, artillery have been pounding enclaves around Damascus and the surrounding area. Those areas are largely held by Islamic State militants as well as al-Qaeda. ISIS fighters, allied militants, are holed up around the southern area of Damascus as well as one Palestinian refugee camp in that area. Guys, back to you in New York.
All right, such a sad situation. Mike Tobin live for us. Thank you, Mike. All right, turning now to some other headlines we are following. President Trump says he is considering a posthumous pardon for boxing first black heavyweight champ, and it's all thanks to Sylvester Stallone. The commander-in-chief tweeting, Sylvester Stallone called me with the story of heavyweight boxing champion Jack Johnson. His trials and tribulations were great, his life complex and controversial. Others have looked at this over the years. Most thought it would be done, but yes, I am considering a full pardon. Well, many think Johnson was wrongfully convicted back in 1913 for his consensual relationship with a white woman. Also this, Candace Owens calling out Black Lives Matter protesters after they tried to shut down her appearance at UCLA. Watch this.
Victim mentality is not cool. I don't know why people like being oppressed. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I love oppression. We're oppressed. 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did. And it's embarrassing that you utilize their history. You're not living through anything right now.
Well, that got the attention of rapper Kanye West. He tweeted this in reaction: "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." Well, now Kanye is getting a lot of backlash for that tweet. Raquel Willis tweeting this: "Candace Owens has proven to be anti-black, anti-LGBT, and fact-hating. Honestly, there are so many more descriptors. For Kanye to align himself with her is messy and dangerous." Owens will join us on the show next hour to talk about all of that madness. Look so forward to talking to her. And there's this morning: GQ magazine slamming the Bible, calling it one of the most overrated books of all time. Editors calling it, quote, repetitive, self-contradictory, sententious, foolish, and even at times ill-intentioned. Well, Fox News religion contributor Father Jonathan Morris joined us earlier in the show, and here's what he said about that.
It's just foolish, and it's a shame. 3.9 billion Bibles have been published. That dwarfs every other book that has been read in the last 50 years.
Well said. Father Morris says the Bible isn't just literature and history, it is an inspired word of God. And those are some of your headlines. Out to the plaza for some food and some grilling. Of course, you're going to find Pete out there.
Thank you.
Yes, this is true.
Psyched.
The weather, they keep on writing in this that the weather is getting warmer. Not really, but I guess in a few places it is, meaning if it's getting warmer, it is time to heat up the grill.
Of course. Here was some ideas for a spring barbecue. Celebrity chef George Duran, he's the author of Take This Dish and Twist It, and joins us this morning. Thanks for being here, Chef.
Yeah, I got some really cool things now that grilling season started.
Yeah.
One of the food hacks that I like to do is taking one of those muffin tin pans.
Yep, that never get used.
Never get used. And what I do is I put different dips inside of it that go in the grill, and as they bubble up, like an artichoke dip or a blue cheese dip, then you match it with the right chips, and I'm using pop chips over here. These
it
guys
just warms up the dip and gets it
exactly. And all you do is you just match it to the dip. So like their little buffalo chip over here goes perfectly with the blue cheese dip, and these guys have half the fat of potato chips.
Don't you spend all your day refilling these little chip things though? Because this
Well,
is
you do.
about-
Well, you do the bigger
multiple.
muffin ones too. The larger muffins too. These are more cupcake-like. So whatever you want. There's a sour cream.
I don't do
onion,
enough blue cheese dip.
the cheddar.
Fantastic.
So all you do is you put it in on the grill, bubble it up, and you serve it like this. It's a lighter way to serve chips, and this way you can kind of enjoy the dips and a little appetizer and amuse-bouche, as they say.
So
in
there's
French.
an amazing looking chicken on this grill over here, by the
I'm
way.
going to show you how to make spatchcock chicken. Anyone know how to make spatchcock chicken?
No.
All right, spatchcock chicken is pretty much flattened chicken, and you take the chicken. These guys are from Just Bear, and the beauty of this is that there's zero antibiotics. Absolutely never ever they use antibiotics on their chickens. All natural, and you cut off with a shear the backbone over here. That's all it is. You cut off the backbone.
That's what they did to Ed.
Nice.
There.
That was the line of the day.
Once you cut off the backbone, you're ready to go. This guy will just flip open. You use your fist to kind of just push it in.
Whoa.
This guy flattens up, and you make your marinade. The marinade, which is right over here, I'm going to wipe my hands really well here. It's very simple. It's just canola oil, and right in the bag, actually, because you want to marinate with canola oil, sugar, garlic, sesame oil, a lot of soy sauce in there. This is a barbecue Korean chicken that Just Bear has on their site, justbear.com. JustBearChicken.com, and you mix that in there. You throw the spatchcock chicken in there.
Inside the bag.
Well, no, you put it inside the bag for a few hours, and once that marinates, you want to put it directly on your grill. And again, you want to have a high-quality chicken that has never seen any antibiotics. And what you see here is the beauty of all these dishes over here. So this is the Vision Grill. This is one of my the
Vision Grill.
The Vision
This
Grill.
grill
That's right.
is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's Kamado style grill. It retains heat like crazy, but the beauty of this chicken is not only can you use it with charcoal like I have it here, but this insert comes off and you can use it as propane during the weekdays, 5 days a week. These guys are available at Home Depot and Sam's Club. And watch this chicken, it's like falling off the bone. This is the way you want to have a really nice, beautiful, hormone-free, it's fresh. Oh, really? You're going to try one of these, right? Okay, here we go. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of the thigh over here, just like that. Look at that.
Did you make a grilled cheese donut over here for that?
Oh, man, did I ever. Absolutely.
What is up with
Again,
that?
the beauty of this is that you can do low and slow cooking. And I ended up making this grilled cheese donut. It's literally a donut that I've cut in half, thrown a piece of
Let's try this.
Throwing some pieces of cheese inside of it. You can throw bacon in there too, ham, pepperoni, whatever you want, and repurpose the donut like we don't have anything else to do with it.
Who wants a donut?
George Duran, you're amazing. And the
Chef,
Vision
thank you.
Grill. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. I appreciate it.
For being here.
Keep
We're
it-
gonna eat Abby.
Yeah, let's see.
Abby, maybe we'll
That
bring
looks so
something
good.
for you.
I don't think Pete said a word that entire segment. All right, coming up, Mitt Romney failing to lock up the GOP nomination for the Senate in Utah while he won't commit to backing Trump in 2020. Is that a winning strategy? That is coming up next. And we always knew Ed loved Democrats, but now it turns out one special Democrat might really love Ed the most. The story of Hillary Clinton and Ed Henry's romance. Was he the one that got away? Ooh, we got more on that coming up.
Mitt Romney heading for a primary runoff in Utah after failing to secure the GOP nomination for the U.S. Senate. The 2012 presidential nominee also revealing he isn't a sure guarantee to support Trump in 2020, saying, quote, "I will make that decision down the road as a person of political experience. If I endorse someone, I'll want to know what's in it for Utah and what help would he provide us on key priorities in Utah." Here to weigh in, former Trump campaign pollster John McLaughlin. John, thanks for joining us this morning. So first of all, these numbers and the fact that he didn't hit 60% at the convention, does that surprise you?
No, because it's not the party of the GOP establishment swamp anymore. This is the party of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is more popular, even in Utah, than Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney, the latest poll was in February. He only had 60% of the vote against an unknown person. So this time, 60% means it's a 60-40 primary. He goes to a convention and won't endorse Trump right before. These are Trump people. Trump, I mean, this is the party of change. It's the party of Donald Trump, where we know that in our last national poll, Republicans won change 84-11. They like Donald Trump. 83% approve. It's over 90% of Republican primary voters.
So you say 84-11 want change. Right. Is Mitt Romney part of that 11? I mean, has the establishment not learned the lesson of Trump?
He hasn't learned. He should have. Donald Trump, President Trump, endorsed him when he announced for the race, and he has not endorsed Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has done good things for Utah. He's opened up federal lands for economic development. He's got good relations with the LDS church leaders. Senator Hatch likes him. He tried to keep Senator Hatch there because he's done a lot. But he also, former Governor Huntsman, who's very popular, he appointed him to ambassador of Russia. So Donald Trump has changed the Republican Party, and even in Utah. And Mitt Romney, it's a mistake because it looks like he's using it as a stepping stone to run for president again. And that's a huge mistake because it opens up, this is the second time he's lost to a Kennedy for U.S. Senate. He lost in Massachusetts. This opens up his liberal record.
Well, so it sure does. I mean, or he could be a never Trumper senator from Utah, which people have seen and have rejected. Where does he ultimately get elected? I mean, if he should, does he win the primary?
By the way, after this mistake, he's now got a real primary. He's got to double down. The first thing he needs to do is return the favor to Donald Trump, endorse Donald Trump for president in 2020, put to rest any idea that he's going to run again, because people are still mad. He lost to Barack Obama. He blew the race in the last week. He was ahead of Obama after the debates and blew the race in the last week. People don't want to have that happen again.
Well, and John, you pointed out through your polling that folks that have run half and half on Trump have not run as strong as people who have endorsed and understood the movement that brought him to the presidency. John McLaughlin, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Pete.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You got it. All right. Well, President Trump suggests the appointment of a special counsel, Bob Mueller, was illegal. So is he right? We're going to ask Ken Starr, the former independent counsel who investigated Bill Clinton, next hour. And Anna Koyman and fitness expert Nikki Glore are with Abby on the plaza. There is Anna. Hello, Anna, virtually. How to work out with your baby, they're going to show you coming up next.
Welcome back. Well, not only is being mom a hard work, but it's also hard on your workout schedule. That is why health coach Nikki Glore created a baby booty camp workout video to show you how to work out while having fun with your kids. So fitness expert Nikki Glore and her daughter Victoria, along with former Fox and Friends weekend co-host Anna Koyman and her son Brooks, are all here to help us work out together. Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to have you back,
Thank
too.
you. It's awesome to be back,
And he's in
especially
his
on a weekend with you. Yeah, you know, it's a little bit different here, a little chillier here than it is in Australia, but it's so nice to be back. I stayed active during my pregnancy and also during this fourth trimester. It's really helped me feeling good and both
And you look
physically and
amazing.
emotionally.
So give
Thank
us
you.
some tips for working out, because this last week I was home with her all week, and I just started kind of doing sit-ups, holding her in my arms.
That's the best way to do it. Don't wait for them to nap, because that's when you need a nap. Work out with your baby, and as they get heavier, like 2.5, you'll get stronger. So we're going to start first with glutes and outer thighs. Dip and lift, dip and lift. So you're squatting, working your quads and glutes.
What do you think, Isabel? Is this fun?
And then as you lift, you're working the outer thigh. And then your arms, your biceps are working. A little
Right. I'm
isometric
even
here,
feeling
holding
this
the
in my
baby.
back too, a little bit, Nikki.
Yeah. It works the whole core because you have to be a little bit off balance when you move side to side.
And the baby, as they're getting a little older, you're going to start hearing the coos and seeing them smiling and
They
laughing.
love these kind of moves. Instead of just, jiggling them around, you do these and they get so excited.
What about the stroller? Because I'm often pushing her in the stroller. What types of things can you do to work out?
Working out in the stroller, getting a great jogging stroller is the best thing you can do, and then you can do lunges with them as well. I'm going to show you guys, so besides that baby rocket move I was just doing, you can take your little tots down into a plie squat and press up to the sky.
I love the babies do
just like
nothing.
that.
They just sit and look adorable.
And they give you these fun little looks
Life
on their
is
faces.
so
You're like,
hard,
wow,
isn't
this
it,
is so
Brooke?
fun. Yeah, so the baby booty camp is a 15-minute workout you can do throughout the day. So if the baby's a little fussy, you can soothe the baby and slim and sculpt mommy with the Nikki Fitness Baby Booty Camp workout.
This is so fun.
And then we're going to take you down to the floor. You're going to lay down with your baby on your lap and do patty cake crunches.
Oh, I
So you guys
love
give that
that.
a try.
Yeah.
While Victoria checks out the slide here.
Okay.
Brooks is only 3 months, so he can't quite hold his head all the time.
Yeah, so you're going to lay his head, you're going to lay Isabel's head against your legs and lay back, and the baby can kind of straddle here.
Oh, I see. This is great.
And then you can hold their hands and you do your little crunches. You can also do your V-sit where you're just here, or you can patty cake crunch with their hands.
Now, I did have a little bit of ab separation, like a lot of new moms have. So you have to be really careful in the early stages
and
of that too.
sometimes
Don't
they
you?
say to splint your abs with a towel when you're doing
While
some
you're
crunches.
doing that.
If you have that, because I had
This
the same
is great,
thing.
and then you get to stare at your baby all day long, which is the best part. All right, let's get to the stroller.
And then actually, I think we're doing playground now, because if you have a baby and a toddler, you're kind of like doing both things, and it's really hard for a workout then. So Victoria, can we get in the swing, please? Come on over. If you guys want to put your kids in the swings, you can. If
I
not,
don't even know if Isabel's big enough, but let's test it out.